What day is it? Saturday? It's a Saturday, so thank you. Do you guys ordinarily do this thing Saturday? I guess the candidates are in town.
I'm Jeffrey too, Andrew. I'll be following you all day today.
Hey, Jeffrey.
Oh boy, here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm okay for now. Thanks, Tim.
Give me 5 seconds. Excuse me, everybody.
Do you want one of these bad boys?
Sure.
How's the week been? So far it's been great. I mean, it does feel more like Sunday than
Anybody who wants
Saturday
to
because
fine.
Because yesterday felt like a weekend because like arrive and have a rock concert and then the rest of the things. Hey, Justin, I brought you a book.
Oh, thank you very much. They gave me the prank chair.
The hard out at 10:10, letting you guys know.
Yeah, it's my fault being.
Check, check, check. Go ahead and eat that mic for me.
Hello, this is Andrew Yang.
Hello, this is Justin Brady.
I'm listening.
All right.
Could do that from the White House. Hello.
Do they have a studio in the White House?
Hello, callers. I mean, they certainly used to, right?
Because I know they have one in the Capitol Rotunda. They have a little studio because we have, I think we have some kind of line to it or something. I don't know. I don't know how that stuff works. Ready when you are.
All right, I am good to go. Here you go. This is for you.
Dude, thank you. That's very nice of you.
Oh, I appreciate you having me on.
I don't know where to put it. Get it on video how awkwardly I sit down in this chair. There we go. Get prank chairs because we believe in having fun.
Me too.
All right. 4 to 6 p.m. every Saturday, it is the Justin Brady Show. I am extremely proud and honored to have Mr. Andrew Yang in here. Thanks so much for coming.
Yay!
We finally got him, everybody.
I'm here.
Fireworks are going off outside. So here, I have been dying to know this. I've been analyzing every move. Just kidding. Not really. That sounds really creepy.
No, I like the sound of it, though.
I've been analyzing the videos. I've been watching everything, and you're extremely relaxed. Really, really relaxed. You're unguarded. Do you what is the ace you have up your sleeve? Is there has someone pleaded with you to be a VP candidate? What's going on? You almost have no fear.
Well, if you start out as the anonymous guy who wants to give every American $1,000 a month, then it's all upside. It's all gravy. I don't have a political career I'm safeguarding or protecting. I didn't even have much of a reputation. So, if I'm going to be like, oh gosh, guys, what are they going to think of this? Then we would go nowhere very, very quickly.
Sure, because there's no fear. And I do want to ask, though, has anybody reached out to you and said, hey, would you consider being a VP candidate if I beat you? Has anybody given you that offer yet? What's
fun is the candidates do confer with each other at the debates and at the various events. And so you see who you get along with, you see who you click with. And we've had conversations, and people are very congenial and considerate. So they're not like, after I win, are you going to be my? But it'd be more. but it's more like, hey, no matter what happens, would love the opportunity to work with you. Things like that. So those kinds of exchanges happen. Yes. So it sounds like someone has given you some kind of offer to work with them. Or I've offered them, Justin. But again, you just see who you click with, and I'm happy to say I do get along with many of the other candidates.
So one of the things that I ask every candidate on here, because it's something that's near and dear to my heart, is the pro-choice movement. I watched your Now This interview on Twitter, and one of the things you said is, I think men should just get out of the room. I think men should just get out of the room and let the women. And so previous guest, Tulsi Gabbard, who you obviously know, has said she wants to draw that line at third trimester. So is that an issue that you want to just get out of the room and default to Tulsi Gabbard and say third trimester, I'm going to go with her?
Well, certainly Tulsi is a woman and has a strong point of view on this. So what's interesting, Justin, is I said in multiple environments, I think guys should just leave the room and let women figure it out. And then some women came to me and said, hey, Andrew, I appreciate that perspective, but in this world, you're actually going to have to fight for women because often it's not women who are making these decisions. And so I heard that and I said, Yeah, that's actually very fair. It's not a world where we can just step out and have women decide. So I'm in the camp that we should be giving women the ability to make their own decisions, reproductive freedoms. I do think that if guys got pregnant, we'd have very different conversations about this. And so on this one, I would respectfully disagree with Tulsi's perspective. I'm a parent. I certainly don't think that abortion is anything that we should be happy about in any context, but I do think it's the woman's right to choose.
So do you align like more with Tulsi? I mean, you're saying you disagree with Tulsi, but like Beto O'Rourke, who just dropped out yesterday, said one day before he's totally cool with that. Are you cool with that as well? Or is there some line in your head?
I am not cool with it. But I do not think it is the government's role or my role to prohibit a woman from making a decision that I even violently disagree with.
Sure. Fair enough. So I want to move on to UBI and your freedom dividend, because this is the big kahuna. This is your big item.
Yes. Freedom dividend, $1,000 a month. For every American, we can make it happen. It sounds far out, but it's actually inevitable.
So single-payer healthcare, $2.8 trillion. These are rough numbers because no one can possibly know. $2.8 trillion. You've also been on the record supporting Medicare for all, coming in conservatively about $1.6 trillion, and the freedom dividend conservatively is about $3.6 trillion.
A bit less than that.
A bit less. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you for correcting me. So can the VAT tax? You're one of the few people that actually came right at the beginning and said, no, I'm not just going to throw money out there. We're going to pay for it. But can a VAT tax on tech companies actually pay for it? I do see a lot of numbers that say, oof, that's I don't think that works.
All right, Justin, here's the magic. Check it out. So first, if we give the American people a tiny slice of every Amazon sale, every Google search, every Facebook ad, hundreds of billions of dollars. Right now, Amazon is $1 trillion tech company paying zero in taxes, less than you and anyone listening to this right now.
Well, they do pay some taxes. The Wall Street Journal did look into that. They do pay taxes, right?
Well, they pay zero federal taxes, which
Sure.
is, I think, what most people think of. And that's not an anomaly. I mean, they've paid
Right.
zero in federal taxes quite regularly. Did you pay zero federal taxes? I didn't. I paid something.
$756 million in state taxes, $2.6 billion in corporate tax, and $3.4 billion in tax expense. So I just want to make that's CNBC. So I do want to put that in there.
But when you say tax
taxes.
expense, I mean like that's literally paying their executives and stocks and being like, oh, it was a tax expense. I paid my guys. So other countries have looked at this and said it's unacceptable that you have $1 trillion tech company that pays zero in taxes. That's why they all have value-added taxes. We should too. And if we did that, it would generate hundreds of billions of dollars very, very quickly. Now, you're right that there's still a gap between a couple trillion and hundreds of billions of dollars. But here's the magic. After I'm president and everyone listening to this gets $1,000 a month, every month to do whatever you want with, where does that money go? Does it disappear? No, it goes right back into our local communities, into Main Street businesses, car repairs you've been putting off, daycare, Little League signups, local organizations. And what happens with those organizations? They hire more, they have more business, they pay more in taxes. We actually get hundreds of billions back from a trickle-up economy.
Sure.
You know what you get sold? It's like, hey, if I cut tax for corporations, we'll all get rich. Like, that doesn't work. But if you have a country where 78% of us are living paycheck to paycheck, you put money into our hands, that legitimately grows the economy every single day.
But does it, though? Because one of the
questions...
yeah, it does. Well, fine. That's the end of the interview. VAT is most like standard. Some people will have a VAT or they'll have a sales tax. Are you saying we'll have both? In this country?
Sales taxes are state by state.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So you're not going to tell the states what to do.
Right. So you're saying both then. So this is saying VAT will be on top of everything else.
Well, the great thing about a value-added tax is you can tailor it. So you could exempt, for example, consumer staples that we all use very, very often, or have it be less. You could ratchet it up on yachts and artificial intelligence or whatever you wanted to try and capture more of the value from. And so it's one reason why other developed countries have already made this move.
So when you say tailor it, I know a lot of our taxes right now are being tailored, and those are being tailored by the companies, the lobbyists they hire.
True. Yeah, well said.
So how do we, you're president, we put UBI in place, we put the freedom dividend in place, we put a value-added tax in place. How do we know that companies like Google and Amazon tailor it to better fit their criteria.
Oh, well, they're not going to be writing the laws, man. I am. And so, we got to get the fair share from these companies. And some of the people, if you look at the list of people who are contributing to my campaign, the top 5 are something like the U.S. Army, Amazon, Google, teachers, it's like schools. The employees of the tech companies know that this is messed up. And so we can make a trickle-up economy work for us and work for the companies, because who's going to see more business when we all have $12,000 more to spend? Many of the bigger companies.
So value-added tax, as far as I know, that's not been done for digital transactions in like AdWords and queries, correct? I don't think it has. I tried to do some research on it.
Yeah, you're right. But Europe has levied like an additional sort of digital tax that that has the same purpose.
Sure. So as far as I know, it doesn't. Is this an area for like fraud, for example? Like, and so I can see you getting in the White House, and we're going to do the value-added tax, and then I see a hurdle, which is Google says, or Amazon, or whatever big company at the time says, that's great, but we're not going to let you peer inside of our networks and data, because the government would have to have access to their data in order to enforce a value-added tax. So would the government be peering through all our Google searches and all that stuff?
Well, the VAT works when money changes hands. And so right now, if I'm an advertiser, the way Google makes money is they have the AdWords.
But the way to calculate that money, though, like clicks and digital transactions, there's not necessarily money always attached to every single click, right?
Well, I mean, this is essentially because you have two sides of the coin. If I'm AT&T and I pay Google to advertise, then you have the records of all the money that went into those ads on both sides. So even if Google decided to commit tax fraud, then you have AT&T being like, hey, I gave Google $10 million and here's what it is. And then you get a VAT on that. So you don't need to necessarily monitor our clicks or our eyeballs. You just need to measure the money that's changing hands.
Okay. So I'm hearing the government won't have to peer inside. I'm hearing that Google and these companies will not have to give any access to the government for monitoring.
Aside from the money that's changing hands, that's correct. That's one reason why these other countries have done this, is it's very, very effective, and it's very, very hard to game your way out of.
Okay, fair enough. I want to move on to AI and automation. This is another huge area, and another area I'm really excited to ask you about. Several industries you've highlighted that will be automated. A lot of them, actually. Truck driving, retail workers, can't even read my own writing, call centers, and even medical. But I have some data here for you. You're the math guy. Trucks, 10,000. We're at a 10,000 loss in 2017. And in 2018, we'll have 60,000 jobs unfilled in that field. Skilled trades, the Midwest can't even find people to work right now.
Yep.
So if every unemployed person in the Midwest was placed into an open job, we'd have 180,000 unfilled positions. That's not slowing down. That's the same case throughout the whole Midwest.
Yep.
And even medical. Like, you've talked about physicians being automated in some capacity. But right now, there's a shortage of
massive physician shortage.
122,000. I mean, and the thing is, retail's the same, call center's the same. So, and as boomers retire, this is going to get far worse. So, whose jobs are we replacing?
Well, I want you to play out an example. So let's call it truck driving. Most common job in 29 states in the country, approximately 3.5 million truckers. Now, is there a trucking shortage or a shortage of truck drivers? Yes, they have a gap of tens of thousands of truckers that they're trying to find. One of the reasons for that is that it's a brutally difficult and demanding job. You're on the road 4 days a week. You're stationary a lot of it. Your back hurts. There's massive turnover in trucking. So then, if the Silicon Valley companies come along and say, "Hey guys, you need truckers? I've got a better deal for you: a robot truck." Then you look up and be like, "Well, I have no choice but to adopt the robot truck because I've got a shortage of drivers." And then after the robot truck gets adopted, do you just stop at like the unfilled positions? Of course not. You're like, hey, I've got these 3.5 million humans. I'm paying $46,000 a year, like each. I can save $168 billion a year by replacing them with robot trucks. So if what you're saying is that there's a shortage of truckers, means that we're not going to automate trucking. It's the opposite. We have a shortage of truckers, so we are going to automate trucking. And you can play that out in each field. If I've got a shortage of skilled labor in my factory. You know what I'm going to do? Buy the robots.
Right.
And then after I buy the robots, am I going to stop at the unfilled positions? Of course not.
But is UBI meant to get us over? Because in the past, early 1900s, right? We went into the Industrial Revolution. We had machines automate time. American workers' hours went from like 60s to like 40s. And so that, of course, by the way, made more leisure time. It made vacationing wasn't even a thing. I didn't even know this. Vacationing wasn't even a thing. It created all these new industries and all these new jobs.
Yeah, and labor unions.
But there was that hump.
And labor
so
unions,
is UBI meant to get us over that hump? So will there be a phase-in and phase-out period of UBI? Now, full disclosure, I don't think we need that. But is there a phase-out period in the next 5 years where we're like, we successfully transitioned, UBI's over?
Well, I'd like to walk through a couple of things that you just said. But first, there's a state right now where everyone in that state's getting between $1,000 and $2,000 a year, no questions asked. And that's Alaska. Deep red state. They had the oil money, and they said, hey, who'd you rather get the oil money? The government is just going to mess it up somehow, or you, the Alaskan people. And there's a Republican governor, and the Alaskan people said, us, please. And he said, I thought you'd say that. And now they get the dividend, and they like it. It's wildly popular, has been there for almost 40 years.
Yeah.
So if you look up and be like, hey, are we going to phase out the oil dividend? It's like, well, why would you? Because it's making people's lives better. It's making children healthier. It's creating thousands of jobs. It's decreased income inequality. And it's so popular that Alaskans, who generally do not like taxes, said that they would actually pay higher taxes to sustain the dividend because they love it so much. So after we get the freedom dividend in our hands, then it's going to make us stronger, healthier, let us pursue the things that we want to pursue. And there's no reason to think it's like, oh, well, like now we're going to pull it back because it's going to be working. Now, when you talk about the Industrial Revolution, there were problems in the Industrial Revolution.
Of course.
There were mass riots that killed dozens of people and caused billions of dollars of damage. That's why we have Labor Day today. We implemented universal high school in 1911 in response to these massive economic changes. And this Industrial Revolution that we're in the midst of right now, the fourth Industrial Revolution, is projected to be 2 to 3 times faster and more disruptive than that one. So if you had mass riots and universal high school and labor unions in response to that one, what are we going to do about this one?
But people are already adapting, right? This would be my argument, is people are already adapting because they're not filling these jobs that AI and automation can possibly replicate. I mean, I would argue that might be why we have that shortage, because people like you have said, hey, this is a problem, and the American people have said, okay, I'm listening, I'm not going to go into that. So haven't we already self-corrected? Or not haven't we already, but aren't we already starting to self-correct?
Justin, this is actually the driving force in my campaign, is I dug into the numbers, and I'm a numbers guy, and I said, are we adjusting? Are we self-correcting? And so here are just a few numbers for you. Suicides and drug overdoses have overtaken vehicle deaths for the first time in America. Our life expectancy has declined for 3 straight years as a result. Rates of business formation are at multi-decade lows in 80% of the country. Interstate migration rates, people just moving across state lines, multi-decade lows. So instead of seeing some mass adaptation, you're actually seeing the opposite. That is why we have to do something big.
Mr. Andrew Yang, thank you very, very much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate you being here. Very interesting, and I know Iowans have been just losing their minds. The Yang Gang has wanted you on this station for a while, and we finally did it. Thank you for coming in here.
Thank you, Justin. It's a pleasure.
We're it.
Thanks, man. That was very well researched by you. I appreciate it a lot.
We got about 10% away from my questions.
I wish we could have spoken longer. It's probably my fault. I think I need to go to something, but I enjoyed that.
No, you're good. We got that's my time.
Oh, really?
So yeah, we got the half hour because they have to stitch the break in.
Okay,
live, but
cool.
We got it.
Well, maybe we'll do this again because I'll be in Iowa, so I don't know if you have return.
I would love to do it again.
Yeah, we can use the questions you didn't get to.
Do we have a few minutes to do that video real quick?
Yes,
Sure.
we do.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
we do.
Here, I'm gonna grab. Sorry about getting in your.
You doing it again? Do you want us to pop out?
Well, we won't do it in here. If anybody saw that.